Hi everyone, welcome to yet another LeadSquared webinar. My name is Kartika and I'm from LeadSquared's marketing team and I will be your host for the day. Today we will be discussing the role of technology in improving insurance coverage, Mission 2047. Before we get to the webinar, let me just quickly introduce our wonderful speakers here. We have Mr. Amrish Kher, who is the Chief Partner Distribution Officer at Turtle Mint. Thank you so much for joining us, Amrish. I know that you're traveling, but thank you so much. I'm really happy that you could make the time and join us. Please tell us a bit about yourself and your journey so far.
Sure. Thank you, Kartika. Thank you, Sridhar, for inviting me over on this seminar. Honestly, for me, it's been over a 2-decade journey as a professional journey in insurance. Been on both sides of insurance manufacturing and distribution. So I've worked with large banks, pretty much leading the insurance function, as well as with large insurers running some of the largest distribution. Clearly, I think after 2 decades, I understood. I think the next wave of growth will have to be led by technology, and hence I now currently work with one of the leading insurtechs, clearly, helping and defining how technology can enable distribution and the Mission 2047. So very thank you again for inviting me for this seminar. Clearly, I think a topic which is close to my heart. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amrish. Really looking forward to learning from you today. We also have Mr. Sridhar Sambat, who is the Vice President of Partnerships and Business Development here at LeadSquared. I'm sure Sridhar might be a familiar face for a lot of you all. But in case some of you are new here, Sridhar, please tell us a bit about yourself as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Kartika, and Amrish. Thank you so much for taking time out and being a part of the webinar. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Quickly about myself, longest career in sales and marketing. I've sold different products all my life, starting with electrical technology and transmission technology equipment, to spinal implants, to commercial products, to industrial software. And for the last 3.5 years, I've been with LeadSquared now, looking at how to salesperson by using our sales automation and marketing execution platform. Really looking forward to this chat with Amrish. He spent a really long time in the insurance sector. I am sort of a newbie in the space and looking to learn and hopefully get a few insights across to the participants on today's call as well.
Thank you so much, Sridhar. That's it. You've heard from our speakers today. So just like me, I'm sure everyone here is excited as well. But before we get to the actual discussion, I have a few pointers to the audience. So if you look to the right side corner of the screen, you can see that we have a polls tab, a questions tab, and a chat option. So we will be publishing a couple of polls during the webinar, so please do interact with them. We would love to hear from you. And the questions tab is your go-to. So during the webinar, if you have any questions that you want our experts to take up, please do feel free to put them up over there. And of course, the chat box is where we can network. All right, so with that, I think that's all from my end. Sridhar, over to you while I quickly pop to the back end. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kartika.
Thanks,
Okay,
man.
so Amrish, I think the subject of the webinar today is role of technology in improving insurance coverage, right? Mission 2047. Like, the government of India has set a target of providing 100% insurance coverage to the entire population in the 100th year of our independence, right? So while we jump into role of technology and etc., I thought maybe we should first talk about why is insurance coverage, why are we talking about insurance coverage? Why is it a problem? Why is it something that is important for the economy today? Maybe you can shed some light on that for us first to begin with.
Thanks, Sridhar. I think first and foremost, a big thanks to all the people who joined for the seminar. So thank you so much for joining. On to your question, I think, Sridhar, clearly, I think India, as we all know, is a country where we pretty much lack the social security ecosystem, which has been fairly prevalent in other parts of the world. So I think from that perspective, and when I look at insurance, you could pretty much look at two sides of insurance, which is life and non-life. If you want to and health insurance, if we may look at it from a third lens perspective, I think clearly all statistics have proven that in life insurance we have a fairly under-penetrated market. So while we are going at a fairly significant pace now, I would say, but overall, when we look at a GDP to insurance penetration, we are less than about 5%. So we are about 4.5% approximately. With a 150 billion kind of population, I think 1.5 billion, population, I think clearly we have loads to cover from a social security perspective. The second element of health insurance. So while the good part is that the longevity has increased, but clearly the health infrastructure has improved, but clearly I think the affordability equally needs to improve, which unfortunately, given the lack of penetration on health insurance equally, which is fairly bad, you actually see that about 70% of expenses in an hospital is actually borne out of pocket. And that is kind of
Wow.
that's a very, very worrying number if you would really look at it. To give you another statistics, I mean, clearly you have about 7% households actually going bankrupt because of a medical exigency. So, I
Mhm.
mean, so there is at one end a lot of providers, innovative products. There's a lot of push from the government. Government has been, I would say, taking a lead to help, create that coverage, not only from the insurance perspective, but creating products like Arogya Sanjeevani, creating products like PMJGPY. So they've been Atal Pension Yojana. So the idea is there is in a large population country like ours, there is
Mhm.
one that there is, of course, people going to live longer because of
Mhm.
better mortality rates, better health facilities. But
Mhm.
clearly, is there money to survive for the future? So clearly, that living too long needs to be covered for. It's a need which is there to be addressed by insurers and from a retirement perspective. Similarly, to take care of morbidity, which is very, very high, clearly from a health perspective, needs to be taken care of. And of course, last but not the least, in terms of a large population being uninsured or underinsured, creates a lot of overall pressure on the economy, clearly
Mhm.
per se. And if not last but not the least, I think when you look at even motor vehicle insurance
Mhm.
today, fairly almost about 50% of the motor vehicles are kind of pretty much running uninsured, and hence you see some of these latest initiatives expected by the government to say that can we do something like on RFID tag itself deducting the
Mhm.
premium. So, from all these three components, I think the government realizes that non-coverage is, of course, detrimental to the society from a perspective of losses, and hence clearly a lot of focus, and I think the right focus of being targeted in the mind to say put an year and put a penetration percentage, and I think I'm sure we'll all get there.
Great. I mean, yeah, that's thanks so much. That's those are some good numbers to be aware of. And one of the other things that I was also reading about the insurance segment in general, and this is, I'm sure people are aware of it, is that the amount of insurance premiums that a country is able to collect directly also impacts the economic health of that economy, right? Because all the money that you collect as insurance premiums actually gets invested in financial instruments, which go into investments in long-term infra projects, which go into investments for the education, for healthcare, for the populace itself. So not only are you, so insurance is a lovely thing, right? Because not only are you protecting yourself, you're also in some way investing in the growth of the country towards the future as well. So yeah, bang on. I think increasing coverage is definitely important.
That EUMs are very, very significant, clearly. I think
Mm.
given the regulations across the investment portfolios allowed by especially the insurance companies, a lot of that money goes into government securities, bonds, and the capital markets, all the three. So clearly, it kind of
Correct.
we've seen all those recent examples of how LIC has actually been bailing
Yeah.
out a lot of corporates
A lot of
given
the,
the
yes.
investments that they've made.
Yeah.
So,
And good or bad is a separate discussion, but yes, there's
yeah, but
definitely
I
been able
think
to bail.
clearly large corpus available from a long-term investment perspective, which really propels the
Yeah.
economy. So, completely
Yeah.
agree with
Got
that.
it. Got it. So I think the need for insurance for citizens is very clear. And I think just bring another point is also the agrarian society, the nature of the Indian economy, which is largely agrarian. I think providing some sort of cover to that segment also is going to be of great importance for this country. So now that, the problem of coverage has been identified and the benefits of what happens if insurance coverage is provided to the entire population, what have been the challenges that have been faced by this industry in the past, right? Till today, the traditional methods of distribution, the traditional methods of coverage, the traditional nature of policies. Maybe you can throw a little light on the challenges that have been existing in the past.
No, I would want to say, I mean, since having seen this closely for the last 2 decades and being in the ecosystem, I think there's been a very, very strong evolution, Sridhar. So if you were to go back many years back, the I mean, this was completely a new segment. I mean, for life insurance perspective, LIC was the only name known before 2000 with very, very minuscule coverage. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something which was, and largely more around, I would say, savings plan or
Mm-hmm.
something like money backs. And then it
Yep.
started evolving when the foreign insurers came in, a lot of investments came into India. Since then, of course, it has moved from, I mean, it's been a journey of only evolving continuously. I mean, and I think technology has played a critical role. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of, I would say, product expertise coming from the global players clearly
Mm-hmm.
has played out a significant role. A lot of data which is now available, which helps kind of on all respect of distribution, underwriting, has significantly evolved over the years. The
Mm-hmm.
way the insurance is distributed is completely significantly changed from the way it was. So it was a completely agency-led business till 2000. And look at 23 years now, it has evolved into digital distribution ecosystems. It has evolved into clearly bank assurance coming up. It has evolved into embedded insurance. So lots has completely changed on the distribution piece.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a continuous journey of evolution on both product, technology, processes, the way it is looked at, the way it is perceived. So been a interesting journey to kind of see this multiple
Yeah.
players coming up. I mean, clearly, the share shifting significantly more. I would say transparency in products. I think the big I think wave which has been really helpful to the insurance industry is clearly a lot of this mobile adoption. I think
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
significantly. I think our data speeds, the evolution in telecom has equally, I would say, helped out
The
insurance
insurance. Sure.
category as well. Clearly, that's
Sure.
been a uh,
Yeah, I think
help.
you've touched on many points, which we'll probably, dig a little deeper into as we go along in the conversation. Just pulling it slightly back, just wanted to understand, the IRDA has been fairly active over the last couple of decades in framing policies and putting together frameworks which helps the industry go ahead. What are you seeing the IRDA come up with in the recent past and in the near future, which is going to help the segment as well, right? Is there distribution innovation that they're allowing? Are they concerned about the insurance protection gap? Are they looking at product innovation? How are they helping by setting frameworks for organizations to sort of play in this space?
So significant here. I mean, IID has also been evolving clearly at every point of stage of the evolution. Clearly, the
Mm-hmm.
regulator has played multiple roles, both of being a regulator as well as a development authority. So I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the innovations I clearly remember. So while the privatization happened, clearly it all started with like a 74-26% in terms of shareholding
Yep.
patterns, which
Yep.
has now evolved to the other extreme and saying you could have
24/76. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So that's one thing which has evolved over the last 23 years by the regulator.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Evolution of launching of Sahi companies, which is standalone health insurance companies, that
Mm-hmm.
clearly came out in sometime in 2009, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Treat customer fairly practices in terms of recommendation of products basis, risk appetite, as well as a need-based questionnaire clearly came out way back for banks. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there, is there has been a clearly thing which the regulator imposed upon the charge structure for ULIPs, because there was a decade of ULIPs being sold and I would say largely being missold, which is clearly
Mm-hmm.
something that the regulator curbed upon. Regulator has kind of moved from a product filing approach over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would talk. Let me kind of touch upon more recent changes, honestly, Sridhar, because
Sure. Sure. Sure.
I
Sure.
would say the current regulator is extremely, I would say, forward looking and very,
Mm-hmm.
very supportive and engaging with the industry. So he's been engaging with all the stakeholders of the industry. And I think the number of changes that have been rolled out, or the initiatives that have been rolled out from the regulator over the last about 6-9 months
Mm-hmm.
is truly commendable. And I think all of them are only forward looking and enabling that mission of 2047. So it doesn't anymore happens to be like a mission statement. It is being backed by a lot of
Action on the
initiatives.
ground.
Yes,
Understood.
I mean, I can
Understood.
talk a few about a few of them. I think the biggest one is it used to be a file and use kind of a
Yes. I
on
read that. Yeah.
per
Yeah.
se, which is now you move to a use and file, which
Mm.
allows for significant
Faster innovation. Yeah.
faster innovation, go to market, fail, move on, decide,
Mm. Mm.
keep innovating. So that's a big one that has come up.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, is allowed for bank assurance, which has become a significantly large distribution ecosystem of almost about 60%, almost on the life insurance side, and if not more, at least about 25% on the general insurance side and health insurance side. He's been allowing now clearly 9 players as partners for corporate agents. So 9 life insurers, 9 health insurers. Oh, sorry, yeah, 9 health insurers, though they don't exist, unfortunately, and 9 non-life insurers. So that's the kind of uh, framework he's announced, where he's saying that you have the option to offer choices to your customers. And I must compliment this, because if you look at this regulation of 9 each, is actually not even prevalent in half of the world. So this is something which is extremely forward-looking, because it gives choices to customers, and today's customer wants to have choices and be informed. So clearly, from a distribution standpoint, he's just opened up many opportunities. When you look at other things that he's been talking about, is something on expense of management. So he's being prudent. He's been telling insurers that be prudent enough in terms of managing your expenses, but make sure that the value being delivered to the customer is clearly the best. So he's saying it is for you to put your house in order, manage your expenses, but make sure that and you can pay the right distribution margin, but make sure that the customer pretty much gets what he's deserving to get. So that's something which is on the anvil. There have been talks and more, I would say, rumors right now, but if that so happens, there's also talk about having rolling out composite licenses, which could again be a game changer or enhance distribution capabilities across the life insurers and the general insurers, clearly on multi-product. So there have been consistently, one after the other, I would say, rollouts which have been happening
steps by the IRDAI.
by the IRDA, clearly. So that's where it has been in the last few months and the last few years, actually.
Great, that's fantastic to hear, right? And so exploring a little bit more on the distribution subject that you brought about, I think when we were chatting offline as well, you mentioned technology obviously is going to play a massive role in enabling this sort of distribution, right? 1.4, 1.5 billion people spread across a really large landmass. How do you actually reach these people? Like you mentioned in the past, it used to be an LIC agent who probably lived in your neighborhood, who came, maybe sold you a policy and then went away, right? So in terms of technology enabling the larger coverage and driving actually building distribution capability for the insurers who are coming into the market, we discussed a few channels. I think bank assurance is one, POSP agents driven penetration, and enabling these POSPs to have sort of a digital life cycle by themselves. Online sales, of course, is one, which is a very hot topic. A lot of startups who are coming in the insurtech space. Embedded insurance, sachet insurance, this is something that's also picking up quite a bit now. So how do you see these different distribution channels working out in the near future? And I think you had a few anecdotes as well that you wanted to share on some of these subjects.
No, this is, I can assure you, this is my favorite question, because all the four is something that I kind of live through every day with various partnerships and in our ecosystem at Turtlemint, because clearly that's what we kind of say, that we enable insurance distribution at Turtlemint. And clearly digital is the way that we lead it with. So to give you an example of all the four, actually one after the other, we operate with banks and other large distributors, including e-commerce players, where we actually enable distribution of insurance through their ecosystems by giving them a platform. One of the key examples that I love to share is one of these partnerships that we have with the India Post Payment Bank as a bank. They kind of utilize the network of the Indian Postal Network, which is about 150,000 postmen. Now, nowhere, I'm sure for many years back, we would not even thought that postmen could be great insurance distributors, but we've realized that today they carry these micro ATM devices, which is used for kind of, all the monetary transactions with customers. And on that ATM device, we've kind of enabled a small sachet personal accidental product, which is a large value. The beauty is, I mean, that's the whole innovation that we saw, that if you bring in the right product together, and we work with the insurance partners together as well as the bank, and you bring in technology, which is what we kind of made it like a 3-step journey. Is that about last 7 months, we've been able to see about 100 crores of volumes and almost about 2.5 million plus policies sourced through these postmen across the rural, I would say the semi-urban network of the country. So it just says that if you have the right product, there is a pull, there is a requirement. You just need to leverage the right distribution channel. And that is what we kind of do. And similarly, now when I move over to the POSP channel, since you touched upon that, I mean, at Turtlemint, we have almost about 300,000 plus POSP advisors who pretty much are present across 18,000 pin codes. And that's where
the staggering numbers.
So your next phase of growth in terms of that volumes that we are seeking or that penetration we are seeking is all going to come from tier B, tier C, the rural markets. And that is where I would say the under penetration of insurance or the cover is actually there. And that's what we're seeing, that you can collaborate with various ecosystems, and each one of them have their own either customer reach, or they have a distribution reach. It is only about carrying the right product to the
to the
right
channel.
in the right channel. So I mean, we work with another ecosystem which has the largest retail network in India, largest retail. I mean, and we kind of empowering them with small two-wheeler policies, hospi cash, so on and so forth. So we work with the large telecom players. So these are distribution points which are available right at the nook in the corner of the whole thing. Talking about embedded insurance, I think over the last decade we also saw a lot of these e-commerce firms coming up, clearly focusing on e-commerce, on health techs, auto techs. Clearly each one of them had an opportunity to embed an insurance right at the journey, and that is what we are seeing a lot of success in. I mean, clearly we have some of the largest health techs working with us, where they have rich customer data, and they're kind of trying to put out the right product there during the course of the journey. Or probably I would say a auto tech company pretty much doing a lot of these used car sale and purchase and embedding insurance there. So clearly I think embedded insurance was largely like a loan insurance, if I may talk about 10 years back.
Correct. That's what it used to be. Yeah.
It used to be only group credit life.
Yeah.
To some extent, then the next category which caught on to that was, I would say, travel insurance, which became like a significant embedded product. But now I think it's innovation over innovation over innovation. Now in every journey we try to reimagine and say that, can we put out a product over there which covers this risk? So if you're and there are products being innovated and I would say supported by reinsurers globally and India. So that I think is the way ahead. So all the four would continue. Bank assurance continues to be a large chunk because there is faith of the customer. And if it's enabled by technology, because practically for a banker to know all products of any insurance company and being able to have these 15 insurers operating together is an impossible task. And that is where a platform like ours comes into play, where it actually helps educate them, helps them like yours as well, which is about helping them in terms of sales automation, in terms of CRM, in terms of lead management system. So you integrate all of these functions of distribution, of learning, lead management, creating a quote, offering multiple choices to the customer basis, need analysis, and then kind of, concluding a sale, as well as driving, servicing capability around the same platform. That is what today is expected and needed in the ecosystem. And that's, I think, clearly the opportunity that we are leveraging, and so are you kind of equally doing. And I think it's a very significant thing because data is of critical importance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And hence, that's something that I think you have to keep innovating and leveraging to distribute. So
no, that provides me the ideal, sort of segue into the next question that I had for you is that, like you mentioned, there are so many options today and so much innovation happening at a product level itself, right? So you have the regulator who's creating frameworks and enabling organizations to sort of innovate. And then in the innovation, you have product and you have distribution innovation, both which are happening parallelly today in India, right? So very exciting times. On the product side, what is the motivation or for both insurers as well as customers to look at the different types of policies, right? And how do you actually look at a customer segment? What are the analytics? So what's going on out there today that is enabling organizations and consumers to sort of find each other, right? So for example, are there any emerging segments which are really hot? Are there emerging segments which are saying, okay, innovation driven, or some are distribution driven, like you were mentioning, tier 2, tier 3 cities probably going to be more distribution driven. Maybe urban centers are more product innovation driven, right? So any thoughts around that in terms of how data is really enabling such stuff?
You've rightly said. I mean, each one is being driven for various reasons, and hence it's important to kind of understand the customer better. Use analytics. I mean, because today with the richness of data that is available, Sridhar, I think really the opportunity to innovate products. And every day, I mean, me being in the industry, I can tell you that I can't even keep up with the innovations happening every day. It is as good as and as strong as that. So it kind of, so I'll give you some examples and how the customer data, customer behavior, and the innovation is all coming in together. So
Sure.
health insurance companies took a lead in terms of saying that you can't manage claims beyond a level, because the expenses are expenses, there's medical inflation, and how much can you really control the hospitals to charge lesser? If they were
Yeah,
to,
I mean, that's a big factor. Medical inflation is at 14% today.
yeah, so medical inflation cannot be controlled. So what do you control? You can actually control claims by better behavior. Now, how do you drive better behavior is something that I would say a lot of health insurance companies started doing. So they pretty much now incentivize the customer. They encourage him with a life active or more healthy lifestyle, and they started incentivizing on that. So they pretty much got the active wear of any customer link to their apps and saying that data. So if you were to walk it 10,000 steps daily, which is the usual thing that you hear about,
Yeah.
you're pretty much then entitled to a discount of the premium the next year. So
I see. Okay.
that's rewarding and encouraging the right behavior. So that's something that's happening. Similarly, when you look at a similar example on the motor side, so I'm sure you would have heard of telematics, which is still more a recent and a Western phenomena. So typically in the Western part of the world, it is the driver which is insured versus the car which is insured in India in that sense to some extent.
Yeah.
So again, to kind of drive, responsible behavior and to incentivize, there is clearly telematics coming in, which is mobile-based telematics, which has come in, device-based telematics, which has come in, which says that if you're a good driver, again, you're entitled for discounts. There are products being innovated by insurers to say that if you want to drive only an X amount or X number of kilometers, then you actually pay a lower price than the others. On the life insurance, so I think it has moved to a different level. So nobody ever thought that a CIBIL data would have any link to the insurance underwriting. But today, when you look at any life insurance company, I think the surrogates that they've connected to is humongous. I mean, there are personas being created. So somebody in a certain state with X CIBIL score or X amount of money in this account, and given all these bank assurance driven practices, that's a lot of rich data that has started flowing back to the insurers and helping them kind of, create products, underwriting guidelines. So some of that is that richness of data, the sources availability from bureaus, from centralized agencies like Vahan. Similarly, on the health, there's a national health data which is going to be stored, and that will again significantly change. And some of this is, of course, I would say this whole keeping a central data is something which is also available in other parts of the world, clearly, where it has seen a lot of value, because when you have rich data available on every car, individual, his health, you can price products better, you can customize, and consumers today expect, I would say, at least the urban consumer, or I would say the millennial consumer, the Gen Z consumer, actually expects to design his own policy. He wants a benefit of his good lifestyle. It's like your credit score, right? If you have a good score, you expect a clearly a lower interest
cheaper
rate.
loan.
So it's pretty much moving in that direction. And from a rural customer perspective, I think he's now becoming more cognizant of the risk that he's been exposed to. So be it the crop risk, be it his dwelling risk, be it his shopkeeper risk. So there are those risks which are being understood by people, and I think COVID has been a big a boon in some sense from I would say more awareness and a far more acceleration on technology to take it to all the places. So that's been there, Sridhar.
Yeah, brilliant. I think the whole merging of these data points that sort of have been driven in India over the last 5-6 years through the Digital India initiative, merging those into actually innovative products which are driving consumer behavior to some extent and also consumer benefits. I think it's the world is the possibility over the next 10 years as I see it, right? You touched on an important point in terms of awareness, right? So I just wanted to understand that in terms of education and on both ends, right? The seller as well as the buyer, in terms of education and certification of sellers and buyers in the whole insurance stakeholder ecosystem, how is this going to drive the quality of service, and how is this going to benefit the ecosystem going forward? It's definitely a very integral part, very key part. So anything happening on that space that you'd like to share?
So I think one of the initiatives that the industry took together, driven by the regulator, was Insurance Zaruri Hai. which if you, I don't know if you caught on to that one. I mean, of course,
Mm.
mutual fund Sahiya was a little more, I would say, over the top kind
Popular,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, but insurance industry also tried to do something, and which is kind of also equally important. But I think the industry needs to come together to do a little more. But if you now realize, I think that's what I'm saying, Sridhar, whatever you're asking is being thought through. So today, what the regulator has done is he's actually created uh, territories and left it to specific insurers to kind of create that awareness in that territory.
I see. Okay.
And to the extent, so this targets that you keep talking about, which is 2047, is not like a number which is not being measured. Each of these guys have been actually, in some sense, told that this is your coverage target for. So X company possibly could have been told that Punjab is your responsibility, and you not to create that awareness and make sure that there's that level of penetration which hits in the next few years. So that's the way the regulator is now driving it top down. And that is extremely helpful. So that's more like, I would say, regulator and the industry coming together to drive that awareness and education. The other thing is, I would say, players like us clearly, and people in the banks and so on and so forth. So as I told you, like in the whole journey that we have, the sales enablement journey for distribution of insurance, we have this embedded knowledge. So when I talk about it, let me talk it as simple as this: that today, if a POSP agent actually walks up to selling a health insurance, health insurance is a bit of a complicated subject. I mean, people don't understand X from Y, from saying a room rent cap X and a room rent cap Y. So we've actually embedded some of those videos clearly in that selling journey itself, which can be consumed and shared with the customer. There is a lot of content like posters and stuff like that, which we put up in the app itself, which can be shared. And these are all multilingual, so they can be pretty much changed with a click of a button and can be shared with consumers. Similarly, there is, of course, a lot of learning content that we put out there in terms of, again, to be consumed and shared with the customer, either of the two. So clearly, I would say from an awareness perspective, there is, of course, a lot of ATL, BTL activities that you end up seeing clearly happening. There is, of course, this regulator push that is happening. And then there is, of course, the digital methodology of creating a lot of learning. And I would say the customers are far more aware now. That awareness is created in the industry. I mean, that's what I'm saying. There was a time when the insurance industry was, I remember one point of time over these so many years that there was a little bit of mistrust, which is kind of got now significantly sorted, because there is claim ratios being published right out there. There is TNC right being published right out there. Products are being made more simplistic. There have been things like, I remember we implemented something called as video KYC, video verification. So something like when you actually buy a policy in a life insurance segment, you have to record a full message to say that you understand the policy. So there has been, I would say, consistent education happening from the insurance industry itself, plus the selling and the distribution arms, and plus from other insurtech like ours, as well as a collective government and a regulatory push clearly to enable that. So I think there's a lot of work to be done as yet, if I may say so, but really on the path.
Yeah, I think we're definitely improving from the days, like you suggested at the start of the call, that in the initial days, a lot of the life insurance also used to be linked to some savings plan or ULIP or stuff like that, which necessarily does not benefit the actual buyer of the insurance policy, for example, from the aim or the objective of actually buying an insurance, right? So I guess also educating the entire distribution channel becomes a very important aspect. One is consumer awareness, of course, but the other part is also educating the entire distribution channel, which is a very important aspect.
This is how this product has been. It's a distributor-led product, so clearly you need to educate the distribution segment, and that's where I said that technology plays a significant gap. And I'm saying it's just how all of us adapted. I mean, till about before COVID, all of us believed that classroom training was the only way to do a training.
Correct.
I mean, today we've all realized the power of online communication and online training. So I think
this medium what we're using right now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So now, slightly coming back to a larger meta point is towards this path of trying to achieve the 100% insurance penetration for the country, right? What do you see are the major milestones over the next, I think we have, 25 years to go, or 24 years to go towards that milestone. So what are the key milestones that the industry is tracking, or as consumers we should be tracking as we go ahead on this path?
I think clearly the first is that some of these social schemes, honestly, which have been launched by the regulator, or sorry, by the government, need to be taken to the last mile. If you ask me, extremely well-designed social schemes, extremely well-designed. But again, I think there is a little bit of, I wouldn't say resistance, but a little bit of lack of push to really drive some of that. So I think clearly, while there have been targets set for insurance companies to achieve that penetration, I'm sure there are going to be intermittent reviews around with them to see if there is progress happening. Because see, one is to look at the percentage of GDP. The second is the penetration improving? Because
the actual density of
because that's extremely important. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of growth, if you look at the last few years, at least especially on the life insurance side, is being driven by the same customers buying more.
Understood.
Which is something which needs to change. So if you look at the last, so one of the milestones that you should track as probably just as an industry expert is clearly, are the number of policies improving? Because what moved for the last few years was actually the case size.
I see. Okay.
On the life insurance side. So if you will see, the number of policies actually remained fairly low. The second thing which you should measure and is of critical importance is what is the percentage of protection premium, or the the term insurance per se coming in the overall scheme of things. That clearly also, while it did start going up before COVID, but I think with COVID and hitting in, and of course reinsurer challenges coming in, it actually slowed down. But clearly that's a very important metric to track if you have to see that is the sum assured, which is what we call in life insurance, improving clearly from that perspective. So I think these couple of things will be extremely important to measure, which is to say that is the protection improving, is the number of policies improving. In fact, I would say that while all of us have been slightly hit with the new regulation on the budget of on the traditional policies in life insurance, restricting tax benefits only to policies below 5 lakhs. But in some sense, it will again enable the cause of going deeper, because for the same volume, you will have to go to probably more customers than going to the same customer. So in some sense, it will. I don't know whether that was the intent, but somewhere it does marry with the intent, if you were to really ask me. So I think clearly that would help. On the motor piece, as I'm sure you're reading about it, clearly the government seems to be clearly in a mood to play the card of to making sure that a third party is like almost like a mandate. So you will not get fuel. You will probably be stopped at your the highways, and so RFID tax. So some of that will have to be enforced upon. Health insurance as a category, clearly, I would say, has been growing well. And given if this distribution is kind of spread to many more players in a composite license, would help. So I think we'll have to keep measuring that how is this playing out. At an intent level, all right intents are there. Is there work happening? But if you want to ask me that, have the metrics been set out for progress measurement and that reviews mechanisms has started? Slightly early to say right now, I think.
Got it.
And the best and the biggest coverage will happen from innovative products, like I was describing in the beginning. With large distributor, the large last in mile kind of distributors taking help of technology and innovative products and taking to the last mile. I think that's going to be significant. As well as
I think products developed in the context of what that last person at the last mile wants, right? Somebody, let's say, sitting in in Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh might want something very different from somebody sitting in Ludhiana in Punjab. So as long as we can start, and that's where the data analytics piece comes in, that as you get more data on the tier 2, tier 3 ecosystem of the population of the country, you can probably start designing products which are more state specific, district specific, person specific, right? Like they say, the ultimate aim of marketing is to hit a segment of one, right? So that's where you need to get to at some point with insurance.
Absolutely.
Cool. I think, and finally, to touch on, what Turtlemint itself has been doing and how our platforms like Turtlemint reducing the barrier for customers to make sense of this entire insurance discovery process, purchase process. Maybe you'd like to throw some light on that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the beginning, a platform like Turtlemint actually covers the entire sales cycle. From a distributor onboarding to his training to his, people need to get certified, so all that certification happens, and and then subsequently his ability to offer options to customers basis a need analysis on a life insurance side as well as on the health insurance side to help him make choices amongst various uh, insurance
Policy
providers.
options. Huh.
Yeah. And of course embedding knowledge during that purpose, uh, as well as ability to share content, create leads from customers. So we've built in some of that ecosystem. All of that is really empowering the seller. Uh, so
Mhm.
so usually what happens is insurance is a little bit of a long drawn sale otherwise.
Mm.
You realize that a life insurance sale could possibly take about 3 or 4 meetings. But enabled by technology, helps people improve their efficiency as well as their productivity clearly. That's something
Yep.
that we've seen, and also helps the customer make a choice. Usually what are the things? Okay, let me evaluate another one. Let me come back. Okay, do you have an
Mm.
option cheaper? So all of that kind of gets done, dusted then and there, and that's where we're seeing that clearly. With all that we built onto the platform, we are able to enable multiple ecosystems of various diverse natures, both within the POSP network as well as also with all the other partners that we have on the TurtleFin side. So clearly, we are fairly bullish. I mean, the growth of insurance.
Yeah.
So as I told you, we are laying down the highway. Of course, the traffic is going to flow through. That's the way we want.
Absolutely. No, I understand. And coming from LeadSquared's background as well, I can talk about the fact that we also work with multiple insurance agencies, brokers, and communities out there, and making sure that the person. So there are two critical elements there, right? Product innovation and the distribution channel. Distribution at the end of the day today is either online or a salesperson who's sitting in front of somebody and having a chat and trying to convince the person to get a policy. So as long as we can make that person more productive, more efficient, more informed in making the right choice for the end customer, you will definitely see adoption go up as we go along and insurance coverage improve.
So you guys do a lot of good work on B2C, I must say, and
Yeah.
that's clearly another opportunity that we've been trying to embed products and create those easy, simplistic three-click products. But I think the drop of journeys and all of that. So it's a cycle. So there is a do it yourself kind of a customer, and then there is a advisory led customer. So you need
advisory led customer, exactly. Yeah.
And for both, you need either enable the buyer on his own, or you need to enable the seller. Clearly, of the two is what.
Yeah, and India is a land of dichotomies, right? You have both these growing at rapid pace at the same time in the country today.
Absolutely.
Great. Thanks so much, Amrish. I think it was a pleasure chatting. Maybe we can have a look at some of the questions that people have thrown up and take some of them.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the discussion, first of all. So to the audience, I see that there's one question. If you have more questions, please do keep it coming. All right, let's take that up. It is from Mr. Madhusudan V. He asks, what about the scope of guarantee payout products that shall soon be taxable for those premium below 5 lakhs from April onwards as per the budget? How reachable and convincible to make clients invest in such long-term lock-in illiquid product? Okay.
So I'll just take that.
Okay.
I think.
I think so, Amrish. I don't think I'm qualified to answer this one.
No. So that's what I touched upon.
Yeah, you did. Yes.
So I think there are two questions within the same question as to how does it really impact beyond the tax regime changing, and I think I did answer that in the discussion. Clearly, I would say that this would drive a lot more effort on the insurers to kind of drive some of the categories which have been underpenetrated, like term insurance, as I was talking about. Similarly, also to drive more growth in retail number of policies, because pretty much the whole same HNI customer buying multiple insurance and kind of crossing that 5 lakh limit will certainly not be as attractive. But yes, I think the guarantees that have been offered by the insurance companies from a long-term perspective have been exceptionally good. So to to say that will this completely die down? Ticket size could take a beating, and I completely acknowledge that there could be a change in the case size, but clearly I think that will get covered up by one, more retail number of policies, and secondly also moving to some other segment and product categories clearly in the life insurance space. The second part of the question, which is about are these unattractive schemes from a liquidity perspective? Answer is no, because most of these plans comes with a lot of guarantees today in the market and actually come with a lot of liquidity. One of the segments which has been highly rising in the last few years, and that is what something that you can see across, is on the income category. So most of these products actually come with guaranteed income possibility. So while it comes with guaranteed lump sum payout possibility, it also comes with guaranteed income possibilities. In fact, the products have now evolved to saying that if you start putting in your premium this year, you can pretty much start getting the liquid option, income back starting from the very next month onwards. So clearly, the products have been very attractive. I think, of course, if somebody wants to lock in long-term guarantees with a certain amount of money, the right time is now. I would say this is like a golden and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for people to really lock in long-term guaranteed benefits, which ain't going to be available, unfortunately, because of the tax benefit. While the products remain, but I would say at this juncture, this is truly the best time to lock in. I mean, I'm a personal proponent of that, and hence I believe that this is because 6.5% IRR, 7% IRR is operating in the market for the longest period of 20-30 years in a regime where we've seen interest rates going down over the last few years. I think clearly is a lot of comfort, and everybody should take most of the opportunity in case people want to invest more than 5 lakhs. But I'm still saying there will be attractive, equivalently better, more innovative products. And last but not the least, from an industry perspective, I would want to rate this industry as a very resilient industry. The number of changes that have happened over the last years is humongous, and I think the industry has always reacted with more power and more growth is the way I would want to put it.
Absolutely. And I had another question for you, Amrish, is while we spoke a lot about what's happening in insurance in India, maybe we can briefly touch on some of the developments that are going on in the Middle East, MENA region and Southeast Asia, because I know that these are regions who are getting inspired by India, and there's also stuff that India can probably learn from these economies and geographies. So any views on what's happening in these segments?
Thanks, Sridhar. I mean, clearly, again, two markets where we as an organization work and enable clients through technology. In fact, in MENA, we've been fairly predominant with some of the large distributors in Dubai, especially, clearly. I would say very receptive market. MENA as a region, or clearly when you look at countries like Saudi, you look at countries like Dubai, Oman, Africa, huge receptivity. And they're very receptive. I mean, their regulators are extremely receptive. Their ecosystems are very encouraging for insurtechs, for fintechs. They're very receptive, very, I would say, keenly helping ecosystems grow. One of the things that I was very surprised to see is that, traditionally we believe that life insurance is pretty much a no-no in some of these markets. The reality is very different. I mean, I was in Saudi recently and I realized that, clearly Saudi is encouraging people to kind of move to life insurance steadily of their own, because there is a lot of I would say burden on somewhere on the governments to kind of take care of these social schemes, and hence clearly they're saying that we encourage you to take life insurance. Motor insurance, of course, has been fairly large in some of these markets, which clearly is significantly evolved with business of data, as I told you. So clearly on that front they're ahead. On technology, I'm saying they're looking at us clearly to learn from us, to adapt some of us. But regulators, I would say slightly some of them way ahead. So while we're talking about this national health, data and stuff like that, it's already available in Saudi. I was fairly surprised to see that. In Tanzania, I'm surprised to see that something like Vahan already exists. So some things like Bima Sugam in some form and shape do exist in some of these countries. So clearly, I would say that Southeast Asia again. When you look at markets like, of course, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, fairly, I would say, well, deeply penetrated, and clearly more on the HNI segment is what they be catering to. But when you look at markets like Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, clearly large markets growing at a very significant pace and adopting technology equally well as innovation. So insurtechs are doing. Indonesia is kind of leading in. Indonesia, Malaysia, both are leading in insurtech as a sector, growing significantly. So I would say there's lots to learn from. I would say some of these regions, from product innovation, data richness, data propensity, embedded insurance. But equally, I think we have a lot to offer from a technology development perspective that
Correct.
we've done. So that's where we see a lot of.
Yeah, we've also been working fairly closely with a couple of large insurers in the Africa region and been exploring opportunities in that space. And the depth and sophistication of some of the insurance products there and the offerings there are quite staggering. So while the product innovation is there today, I think the distribution channels and technology to get these products to a multitude of people, which is a challenge in Africa as well, very similar to India, that is something that we have also seen in the region and we're solving for. Incidentally, I'm going to plug this in. A couple of days we have a couple of people from Hollard Insurance and Discovery joining us for a call. Yeah.
Great.
So definitely an area of good interest.
Absolutely.
Okay. I would like to take up a few other questions as well. We've had a few questions coming in through the email. Okay. Yeah. The first question is would the traditional insurance distribution hold enough ground going ahead, or would digital journeys replace all? Is the first question I have. Yeah.
My favorite answer to this one is both are going to coexist for a very long time now.
For a very long time, yeah.
Okay. And we've all moved from physical to, I would say, phygital today. Digital would exist. As we discussed, there is both categories of customers which is evolving, which does need advisory, and then there is clearly a do-it-yourself customer. So digital channels for simple commoditized products will continue to grow and rise. I spoke about embedded insurance earlier. Sachet products clearly will continue to go more and more on the digital format, but large ticket, need-based, advisory-based products covering protection gaps, covering for other, individual needs of customers, clearly would continue to see traditional models still thriving, enabled through technology. That's the way I would want to leave it.
Yeah, and I think another segment we didn't touch upon is also the insurance for the large base of SMB organizations in the country today, right? That's an entire different discussion by itself. But a lot of the SMB companies here today do not carry enough insurance to cover for their own business risks.
Absolutely. And those risks have been evolving, Sridhar, over a period of time. I mean, probably 15 years back, a cyber insurance did not make sense. But today, you pretty much can't survive without any. D&O has always existed, but the risk associated with D&O has been evolving over a period of time. So clearly, some of the risks that were unforeseen, clearly, and that is where I would say a lot of this underwriting expertise and product expertise is something that we borrow from the global markets as well. I think clearly because those are some of the risks that they've seen through, understood clearly.
And evolved through, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So clearly, I think that's something that we will continue to see a lot of action and evolution happening on.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So
maybe one last question, if there's any, or I think we are good to wrap up.
I think we can wrap up because I don't see any more questions coming in as well. I see that Pradeep is typing. So, all right. Anyways, Pradeep, if it's a question, please do put it up. Meanwhile, to both the speakers, if you have any closing remarks, we'd love to hear from you. Amrish, if you could.
Amrish, you'd like to go first? Or?
This was such a great discussion. Again, big thanks to LeadSquared to kind of enable this discussion and to invite me over. I think she's a very, very engaging discussion. Thank you for posing the right question. And I think thanks to the people who joined it for the discussion, for being patiently listening to us. And I think I hope we could share some insights which could be of use and benefit to all. So I think all of us from the industry are clearly aligned to this Mission 2047, and I'm sure players like yourself and us and other many more would continue to enable the ecosystem to get to that target. So great discussion. Thank you so much, Karthika.
Yeah, thank you.
Host.
Thank you so much, Amrish. I couldn't have said that any better myself. Thank you so much for taking time out, and thank you to all the attendees as well for participating in the discussion. And Amrish, great chat. Chat is only as good as the question on the other side. So wonderful to have you on the webinar. Thank you so much for participating with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
all
everyone.
Right. Thank you, Kritika.
Thank
you, Karthika. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Thank you.